Hi, everyone. I'm just going to discuss a little bit about the REGN5458 abstract that I presented at ASH this past weekend. REGN5458 is a bispecific antibody which binds to CD3 positive T cells, activates them, and induces apoptosis of BCMA-expressing multiple myeloma cells. REGN5458 is a first-in-human phase 1 trial, and the primary objective of this trial is to evaluate its safety and tolerability and find the recommended phase 2 dose in this relapsed refractory population. To be eligible for this study, all patients must have multiple myeloma per IMWG criteria, and I'd like to highlight that this study actually allowed patients who are non-secretory myeloma but had measurable plasmacytomas. These patients had to be relapsed and refractory to at least 3 or more prior lines of therapy, including an IMiD, a PI, and an anti-CD38. You can also see that this was a dose escalation study, and REGN5458 is initially given as a split dose for week 1 and 2, and then given as a single weekly infusion from week 3 onwards until week 16. Then the dosing schedule transitions to every other week. Next, let's talk a little bit about the baseline characteristics of this study. At the time of data cutoff, we had enrolled and treated a total of 49 patients on this study who had a median age of 64 and about 31% of them being over the age of 70. And you can also see that these patients were quite heavily pretreated as their median prior lines of therapy was 5 and it ranged anywhere from 2 to 17. And 61% of these patients were actually refractory to their last line of therapy. You can also see that they were 100% were triple refractory, 57% were penta-refractory, and if you broke this refractory status down further, you can see that 80% were CARF refractory, 92% were POM refractory, and 100% of these were anti-CD38 monoclonal antibody refractory. Of the 49 patients enrolled on this study, 15 patients are still on treatment, 2 completed treatment, and 32 discontinued treatment. Most patients who discontinued treatment did so due to progression of disease. Now let's talk a little bit about the safety data on the study. The most common adverse event, grade 3 or higher, was hematological. Grade 3 or higher non-hematological AEs were quite infrequent. CRS, a known adverse event of bispecific therapies of any grade, was seen at about 39%. And let's talk a little bit more about the CRS. The total CRS, as I mentioned, was observed in about 39% of these patients, which was all grade 1 and 2 CRS. We actually did not see any grade 3 or higher CRS events. The median time to CRS onset was approximately 19 hours, with a median duration of about 12 hours. The CRS onset was most common within the first week of treatment, and of the patients who developed CRS, 6 patients received tocilizumab and 4 received corticosteroids. Now let's discuss a little bit about the efficacy. In this dose escalation study, 49 patients have been treated so far and had a median duration of follow-up of 2.6 months. You can see that the overall response rate based on the dose levels varied, but the total overall response rate was 39%, with 18 out of the 19 responders achieving VGPR or better, and 42% of the responders having CR or better. You can also see that we saw stringent CR rates even at very low dose levels. When we talk about the duration of response, we see that responses occurred early and mostly by week 4, and they deepened with time. The median duration of response is 6 months, and it ranged anywhere from 1 to 13.1 months. What's really important to note here is that 37% of the responders maintained their response for 8 months or more, and 74% of the evaluable responders are still on treatment. So in conclusion, I just wanted to close by saying that REGN5458 has an acceptable safety and tolerability profile with all grade 1 and 2 CRS and no grade 3 or higher CRS or neurotoxicity. In addition, we saw early, deep, and durable responses with 95% of the responders having VGPR or better. The median duration of response was 6 months, and 37% of the responders maintained their response for 8 months or more, with 74% of the responders still having ongoing treatment. Currently, for REGN5458, the phase 2 portion of the study is starting to accrue patients.